What if I were to tell you that something invisible influences our children on a daily basis, and that it can affect everything from the development of their physical and emotional health to how well they learn academically? Yet what's even more interesting is that this invisible something is pushing the boundaries of science and spirituality closer together. What I'll be talking to you today about is interaction synchrony, and it's the hottest, most researched topic in science today. Welcome, everyone. My name is Christine Ramos. I'm a maternal child health registered nurse, childbirth educator, certified case manager, board certified lactation consultant, and author of A Journey into Being, Knowing and Nurturing Our Children as Spirit. Before becoming a nurse, I was a social worker for about 10 years and worked therapeutically with those suffering from mental health and substance abuse disorders. I've worked in the specialty of maternal child health for over 22 years with experience in obstetrical nursing, family public health nursing, and parent education. Also, depending on your lexicon, I'm a highly sensitive person who can perceive the human energy field. It's that extended part of us that I consider to be spirit, or the elusive source of consciousness. And whether you're aware of it or not, you also perceive the energies of other people. Just think about the vibe at a music concert versus at a library. We have expressions like, the tension in the air was so thick you could have cut it with the knife. Or, their love was so strong it was almost palpable. Some individuals can feel drained when in the company of someone who is emotionally depressed, or just the opposite, energized when with someone who is, say, exuberant. Some people are simply more sensitive to these perceptions than others. So when I had my own children and began working in maternal child health, I immediately noticed how different an infant's energy patterns were compared to an adult's. I saw how those patterns responded to the energy of other people, outside influences, and how those influences showed up in their behavior. In 2004, those differences were documented in my book and published in 2006. But the registered nurse in me has always searched for empirical evidence that would confirm what I perceived and wrote about. However, back then, there were no studies conducted with children on what is now known scientifically as interaction synchrony. So I'm sure you can imagine my excitement to see this research is finally happening. Research that is slowly revealing the evidence of the expansive brilliance of our spirit, how consciousness is non-local, and how it can, in fact, merge with others. So, what is interaction synchrony? What exactly is its definition? So interaction synchrony is the spontaneous mirroring or synchronization between two or more individuals, which can include behaviors, emotions, and body movements. It's also known as interbrain synchrony, interpersonal synchrony, brain-to-brain entrainment, and neural coupling. This synchrony occurs on a very deep vibrational level. With modern techniques known as hyperscanning, scientists can now visually observe the patterns of neuronal and physiological pairing that occur between individuals. They found that depending on the situation, a person's nervous system, brain waves, heart rate, respiration, and even their perception of pain can be synchronized or coupled with others who are nearby. Now, as you can imagine, depending on the degree of resonance, this can have profound implications in just about every aspect of our child's lives, from prenatal life to adulthood, in the classrooms and out. In fact, research on mothers and babies was how this phenomenon was discovered in the first place. Let me take you back to the late 1970s in Bogota, Colombia, where two pediatricians ran out of incubators for their premature infants. In an act of desperation, they followed the example of how kangaroos insulated their young and began placing the infants on their mothers' bellies. Because of this simple act, the mortality rate of premature babies in Bogota fell from 70% all the way down to 30%. Since then, it gradually became more popular around the globe, and the lives of countless babies have been saved by practicing kangaroo care, or what is also known as skin-to-skin contact. When researchers took a closer look, they realized that the health outcomes of both mother and baby far exceeded what they expected. They noticed that when skin-to-skin contact is performed for at least 60 to 90 minutes immediately after birth, a cascade of physiological effects occurs that optimizes every organ system in the infant's body, as well as promotes breastfeeding. Mother also receives benefits such as reduced stress hormone levels and greater amounts of oxytocin. Dubbed the love hormone, oxytocin is vital in postpartum healing, breastfeeding, and pair bonding. Because the benefits are so dramatic, today the World Health Organization, UNICEF, CDC, and American Academy of Pediatrics, among other groups, recommend that all infants receive this precious contact upon birth and regularly afterward. Now here's where it gets really exciting. In 2020, a follow-up study was done on a group of young adults who received regular kangaroo care as children. And what they found was that these young adults had overall better regulation of emotion, engagement with peers, cognitive control, management of stress, and greater empathic understanding than those who did not receive regular kangaroo care. In a different study, researchers noted that interaction synchrony was strengthened with physical proximity and affectionate touch. What makes affectionate touch so very important is that it activates dopamine and other feel-good chemicals in the child's brain, which enhances cognitive functioning, such as social learning and reward processing, which is vital in preventing major mood disorders and addictions. The stable resonance between a caregiver and a young child is so important that lack of it has been associated with the development of autism and mental illness. The problem that scientists are grappling with is that they don't have a clue to how synchrony is happening in the first place. But for many of us who understand the nature of the spirit, this is stuff we already know. Although our physical bodies may have definite boundaries, our souls do not. We are enormous and expansive, at one with all. But for the sciences, this discovery is somewhat discomforting, not only because they have no explanation for synchrony, but also because it has challenged the first-person singular notion of the human experience. For science, evidence of expanded consciousness is paradigm shifting. So, What does this mean for our school-aged children? How can their lives be affected by interactional synchrony or lack thereof? Several studies measured interaction synchronization between students and their teachers. Not surprisingly, the more resonance shared between student and teacher, the better their learning score. So, the question then becomes, what helps develop this resonance between student and teacher? First and foremost, physical presence provides the strongest synchrony. Researchers found 9 significant cross-brain links between teacher and student, as opposed to only 1 cross-brain link when students received instruction remotely. Other methods that increase the degree of synchronization are asking guiding questions and offering hints versus providing definitions and clarifications. Video instruction was favored over lectures that were non-engaging. And interestingly, musical instruction in the classroom enhanced learning through greater resonance with the instructor. Factors that influenced synchrony included student cooperation and the degree to which a student liked the teacher. I guess that's no surprise. In general, a person's physical proximity, level of engagement, level of empathy, social closeness, engagement, intentionality, and social behavior such as joint action and eye contact consistently predicted the extent to which their brain activity became synchronized. Not surprisingly, a factor that discouraged interaction synchrony was competitiveness. The issue of physical proximity is a crucial one because studies indicate that interbrain synchrony strengthens both cognitive and affective empathy. Cognitive empathy is the subjective understanding of another person's emotions, whereas affective empathy is the ability to share another person's emotions. So if a person's physical presence triggers interaction synchrony, what does that tell us about social media and other forms of online communication? It tells me that without having the benefit of your physical presence, I can't easily merge my consciousness with yours. I can't put myself in your place or readily put myself in your shoes. And if I can't see myself in you, it may be easier to be less kind and less considerate. Cyberbullying is a huge problem here in the US. A 2019 survey revealed that 60% of children between the ages of 14 and 18 have reported being cyberbullied, and many suspect that that number is underestimated. And sadly, it's associated with the rise of adolescent suicide. Clearly, there's no easy answer because we all know the virtual world is here to stay and will only become more prevalent in our lives. But being aware of the invisible power of synchrony will certainly help us to help our children navigate their world. There's one last point I want to make about interaction synchrony. We talked a lot about its many benefits, but does it have any disadvantages for our children? The answer is yes, especially for highly sensitive children. From the time that we're born, we must integrate our vibrational self with our physical self. Remember, it's close contact and synchronization with their loving caregiver that helps young children self-organize and self-regulate. Therefore, Self-regulation is fragile for all children. The boundaries between self and other are weak. The ability to disengage their consciousness from another person and recover is difficult. To get an idea of this, just think about a tantrum from an overstimulated toddler, right? Enough said. Moreover, according to Dr. Elaine Aron, psychologist and best-selling author of The Highly Sensitive Child, 15 to 20% of all children are considered highly sensitive. For them, those energy boundaries will remain comparatively weaker during their childhood and throughout their lives. So, for children, interaction synchrony can be a destabilizing experience, and much more so for the highly sensitive child. As adults, we must be mindful of the importance of protecting all children from too much synchrony, which can cause them the discomfort of sensations and emotions that don't belong to them. In the classrooms, too much synchrony can manifest as irritability, disorganization, and lack of concentration. At home, they can display erratic emotions and have difficulty falling asleep. Interaction synchrony can even cause a child to perceive someone else's physical pain. To help our children, we need to allow them to seek an energetic shelter so that their body's energy flow becomes more organized and secure. Allow the child to get physically close to their parent if at all possible. If not, perhaps you can act as that shelter, but only if you can quiet your mind and simply hold space for them. Despite these energy influences being very intrusive at times, I want to make it clear that they do serve a valuable purpose. It's the natural consequence of using empathy and intuition, which should be carefully nurtured within our children. This merging of consciousness provides a universal function in that it's meant to promote compassion through resonance with one another. It's part of a greater universal energy that connects us all as spiritual beings. The collective consciousness evolves because of this shared resonance. So, we learn that as spiritual beings of energy, our consciousness expands to interact with all of those around us. We saw how close, affectionate contact between a child and her loving caregiver strengthens interactional synchrony. And that synchrony optimizes the body's functioning as well as improves the child's ability to manage stress, regulate emotions, and enhance cognitive functioning, including social learning and reward processing. Again, why is that so important? Because it is protective against future major mood disorders and addictions. We discussed how synchrony influences academic learning, both in the classroom and remotely. And finally, we saw how interaction synchrony could be destabilizing for a child, especially a highly sensitive child. Now, I want to leave you with just one last thing. As the frenzy of research on interaction synchrony continues, one thing is crystal clear. Love and physical affection during early childhood create the foundation of vibrational integrity and empathy from which synchrony can arise. And as the child grows, it is that empathy that promotes greater compassion through resonance with others. It is their secure brilliance that can create a kinder, wiser, and more peaceful world. We are all responsible for our young, regardless of our relationship to them. Separation is a dangerous illusion. So, my question to you is, when a child vibrationally reaches out to you, what will they find? Now, more than ever, the words of Maya Angelou ring true. We are not our brother's keeper. We are our brother, and we are our sister. Thank you for listening.